Nathan Graves, 989, interviewer and spokesman for the Abridging community. Kaiser Neko.
989, and I'm here with the creator of Lupin the Third, Kaiser Neko. Kaiser, thanks for giving your time.
Hey, you bet.
Alright, first question I'm going to ask is, what inspired you to make an abridged series?
Well, of course it first starts off with Little Karibo, you know. He was the first, and some people say he's the best, though I think he's just really good. But it went on from him, then I saw HBI 2Ks. I think one of my biggest inspirations, mostly because of all their editing going on, is Moscow and Vegeta. But what really made me pick up the DVD and just start going at it was when I saw G Gundam Abridged, which I think really set an example for what a couple of guys can do with a sort of unpopular, or at least a series that has a very low popularity count.
Why Lupin exactly?
This is going to sound like the most uninspired answer ever, but a while ago I entered a contest to win the first Lupin DVD, which contains the first 6 episodes except for the Nazi episode, which was not released because it was too offensive at the time, or some bull like that. And I won the DVD, I watched a couple of the episodes, I enjoyed it, but it sat there for so long. And then finally, when I got the inspiration to do an abridged series, I was looking through my DVD collection trying to find something. Finally, I looked at my Lupin DVD and I was like, why not? I can do something with this. It'll probably be very corny, but I think I can do it. And so, yeah, just popped it in and started working. In about 2 days, I had a full episode.
What's the process you go through to make an episode?
First, what I do is I decrypt the episodes, rip them to uncompressed AVI, which are gigantic. I mean, geez, it's like 30 gigs for one episode. I pull the episode into Adobe Premiere, and then I do all the scripting on the fly when I'm voicing every scene. If an idea comes to me to edit the scene using Adobe Photoshop, then I'll just do it right away. And I also use Audacity to do all the voicing. Yeah, everything is really done on the fly. I also try not to let an idea go away, and I try to keep ideas kind of fresh in my mind. I usually do everybody's lines separately. I don't switch from each voice in one file. Usually I'll do one line from a character, save that, do another line from a character, save that, and I save everything as WAV files as well, because those are the easiest to work with in Premiere. And I'm mentioning this because if anyone hears this and wants to do an abridged series, always use uncompressed material. It is the easiest to work with, you'll find the least faults in the material, and when you export your series from whatever program you're using, be it Premiere, Vegas, unless you're using Windows Movie Maker, in which case you really don't have a choice, always do it uncompressed, and then use Virtual Dub Mod to re-encode that episode. And I'm sorry that was a very long-winded answer, but, you know, it makes for the best looking and best sounding.
How did you decide on how the characters would sound like?
Okay, Lupin was sort of easy there, because I always loved Tony Oliver's interpretation of Lupin. I'm not very familiar with a lot of the other actors, but I went with Tony Oliver's just because I loved his interpretation, and it was the closest to my voice. Usually some people think he sounds a little bit gay, but I think that's just because he's very nasally and very high up there. Then you have Jigen, which, if I could make him sound different enough from my Goemon, I would make him sound like Richard Epcars. But when it came down to it, I had to go with a interpretation of Chris Sabat, or Chris Sabat, or I don't know how to pronounce his last name, honestly. But, yeah, his was pretty simple. Do an impersonation of the Chris Sabat version. And it sounds a bit more American and a bit more casual than Chris Sabat's. But then you have Goemon, which is pretty much just kind of Lex Lang, only a bit more regal sounding. And then there's Zenigata. When I first heard Zenigata, I was trying to do an impersonation of that voice, but then I just decided, you know, give him a accent. I don't know what this accent really is, but I just decided to make him sound very crabby and very pissed off all the time. Mostly because that just kind of fit the always pissed off, always failing version of Zenigata I wanted to portray. And when it came to Fujiko, I really just kind of ripped off everyone else in their female voices. She was very uninspired.
Who are your favorite characters to voice?
That would be a tie with Lupin and Zenigata. Lupin being my favorite just because he's such a smartass and so fun to play, and Zenigata because he's always so pissed off. He never gets a break. He seems almost xenophobic and almost, offensive with how he is and the way he talks to people. He calls Lupin Frenchy and a French bastard all the time. He brings out a lot of energy when I do him. But yeah, Lupin's my favorite just because he's so silly.
Do you have a favorite joke so far?
My favorite joke would probably have to be I has a bucket, because during that scene I was having such a hard time coming up with a joke for it. And I noticed, wait a second, he's about to hit him with a bucket. Why in the hell would he hit him with a bucket? Wait a second, that's the joke. I has a bucket from that, macro that I keep seeing everywhere. So I just chose that one, and a lot of people really seem to like it. So that's probably my favorite joke.
Do you have a joke that you regret or didn't think it was all that funny?
The Scientology joke in episode 3, the one that Fujiko says, mostly because I wanted to do a joke that equated Nazism with some other stupid, terrible, popular group of people that we can relate to today. And honestly, the first thing that popped up in my head was Scientology. And I think the joke could have been funny, but I made it sound contrived. So I do regret that joke and wish I could go back and rewrite it.
I'm on your page right now, and I just have one question.
Yes.
Are you a fan of Vic Mignogna?
I love Vic Mignogna. I think he's fantastic. I love him as Edward Elric. I love him as Edward Elric. The thing is, I think he's a fantastic voice actor, but I haven't heard a whole lot of his material. I just remember hearing him as Edward Elric from Fullmetal Alchemist and all the stuff he keeps posting on his YouTube account. I think he's a great guy, and he's a fantastic voice actor. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Vic Mignogna, and I can't wait to see more of his material.
What other anime do you like?
Oh, okay. Dragon Ball Z was my first, and I don't think it's my favorite, but I think it's my biggest guilty pleasure. Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, getting all the shonen anime out of the way. Yu Yu Hakusho, Death Note, love Death Note, love Cowboy Bebop. I give Evangelion its due. Fooly Cooly, Fruits Basket, Cardcaptor Sakura, the first 3 Sailor Moons, not Sailor Moon SS, and I think Sailor Star started off wonderfully and then just sucked. There are a couple others, but I think I just named my top tiers.
What about anime that you don't necessarily like?
Love Hina. Love Hina is, I think it's one of the most overrated series, and a lot of people, usually just say, oh, the dub sucks, the series is actually pretty good, and it's one of the first harem shows. I sat there, and I honestly was bothered by a lot of the characters, and while watching it, I was like, where the hell is this story going? And half the time, it felt like they were making up the story, like, with every episode, trying to work themselves out of the huge, deep hole that they dug themselves. So I think Love Hina is one of those series that I just can't get behind. I also don't like a lot of moe shows. At least the ones that endorse this Lolita complex. Little girls are not sexy. They're just not sexy. Now, Lucky Star, that's a great moe show, and so is Azumanga Daioh. But as far as I'm concerned, a lot of moe shows, they either creep me out or kind of give this bad image to the anime fandom.
Pirates or ninjas?
Have you ever seen a ninja get caught stealing music? I don't think so.